Let's talk about the real winner of the Israel-Hamas war, shall we? Let's talk about Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has given a jaw-breaking response to the enemies of Israel and has crippled them for a very long time. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been going through a rough patch since March 23rd. The fourth election, which was held in Israel in a span of 2 years, threw up yet another inconclusive result. This time around, though, the prospect of Netanyahu forming the government really looked bleak. However, the Hamas's offensive against the people of Israel seems to have magically resuscitated the fortunes of Benjamin Netanyahu. Needless to say, he is the go-to man when Israel needs to be secured from its enemies. Hi and welcome. This is TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Sanbir Ranhotra, and in this video we will explain how Israel is lucky to have a prime minister like Benjamin Netanyahu. After 11 days of war between Israel and Hamas, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has proven himself to be the protector of Israel. The opposition within Israel was so far seemingly gaining an upper hand over Netanyahu's Likud party. However, the events of the past few days have once again reminded the Jewish people of the grim realities which stare them in the face, and also how the region at large continues to remain hostile against Israel. Most definitely, Israel has emerged as a victor in the aftermath of the 11-day war. The losers, meanwhile, include the likes of Hamas, Iran, the Biden administration, Turkey and China. Yet, Israel would not have won this war had it not been for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who took Hamas by its horns and bombed the living daylights out of it. Even now that Israel and Hamas have reached a ceasefire, Netanyahu has made it amply clear that any misadventure directed towards the Jewish people will not be tolerated. The Israeli Prime Minister said, "If Hamas thinks we will allow rocket drizzles, it is wrong. We will respond with intensity to any rocket fire. What was is not what will be." Within Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu's political capital and heft have risen by leaps and bounds. He successfully protected the Jewish nation from a variety of enemies looking to take it down. A glowing example of the changing political scenario within Israel was reflected by the fact that Naftali Bennett, a far-right politician and a key partner, abandoned the talks with opposition leader Yair Lapid last week after the fighting began. The negotiations, which were being held between anti-Netanyahu political parties in Israel to form the next government, were also abandoned by Mansour Abbas, the leader of the Arab Party. Whatever unity the opposition parties had tried to manufacture has begun evaporating. With the opposition disintegrating, Israel might just be on the cusp of yet another election, which would be an unprecedented fifth in a span of 2 years. If things ever reach the fall election of this year, Netanyahu is expected to register a handsome victory, since he has once again protected ordinary Israelis and delivered a jaw-breaking retaliation to Hamas. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's goals are very clear. He wants Israeli control over the West Bank and is willing to go to any lengths to achieve the same. Netanyahu also aims to take steps to ensure that a demographic takeover of Israel by Arabs or non-Jews never sees the light of day. Most of the influence which Israel has come to exert in the region is due to Benjamin Netanyahu's astuteness and a strong sense of Jewish nationalism. At heart, Benjamin Netanyahu is still a soldier. Although his battles are no longer held on the battlefields, he is nonetheless waging a war against anti-Israel forces around the world and remarkably succeeding in the same. Benjamin Netanyahu's political career is far from over. The fact that he has decimated Hamas in the past 11 days will only further strengthen his political hold over Israel. Netanyahu is slated to take Israel to even greater heights hereon.